Welcome to the 36th session on operating system and Linux. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, and in today's class we are going to look at file protection. We are going to see the different types of access that are permitted and how the file protection systems are used in the multi-user operating system. So let's look at what is the need for protection. Okay, the protection comes into picture because we want our files to be accessed by others. So whenever we allow the others to access the files or a folder from our system, then we need to be extra careful because we really don't know what is the intention of the person who is accessing our content. Then we need to think about protection. So the protection and the access both are connected together. Suppose if you build a system that does not permit anybody to share their files, in other words, it will not allow the access to the files to the user who are not part of the system, or which does not allow you to share your content with the other, then there is no need for protection because you don't allow others to access the content. Then there is no protection as such because its entire thing is there with you. You prohibit them from accessing anything. If you take the extreme opposite side, so in one side you don't allow anybody to access the content. So if you look at the thing over here, so at one side you don't allow anybody to access the content, whereas the extreme side, if you look at here, you allow everybody to access the content. So there is you don't mind anybody deleting, corrupting, doing anything with the content. So that's the extreme side. But we generally don't take these two general cases into consideration. We generally try to go to the middle part here, wherein we want some things to be not accessible to everyone and some things to be available to everyone. So that's a general use. Okay. Now, when I say protection, what is the meaning of saying protection? Protection is I'm controlling or I'm limiting the access or I'm limiting the type of access they can achieve. So I don't allow them to take all type of action on the content. For example, I don't mind somebody reading the content, but I do not want them to make changes to the content. So in other words, I limit the type of access they can have it. Okay, so depending upon the type of action, let's try to look at the different types of action or the operation that the user can take. Now, if you take a general file for that matter or a general folder that matter, what are the different type of action that a particular user can take? Now, we know very well a user can read the content of the file, user can write the content and maybe delete everything and rewrite it, or user can execute the content. What's the meaning of saying execution? Is the content of the file is transferred or loaded into the memory and the instructions are carried out. The other option that the user generally performs is the appending. Appending means adding the content at the end of the file. The other usual thing, they can delete the content as well as they can get the list of files or the list of names of files and folder which are there. So these are the general access that a user can perform in any file system. There are other type of actions like you can rename the file, you can copy the file and so on and so forth. Now all these options like renaming or copying, all of them are thought to be higher level functions because they can be implemented by the low level function. Okay, so we just stop the low level function. So you can divide the access permission into two parts. One is there at the higher level and the other one is there at the lower level. The higher level actions may perform one or more low level actions. So you may perform one action like copying, and it in turn may do some low level multiple access. For example, let's take that example itself. Suppose if you want to copy a file from one location to the other location. So if you want to copy the content from one side to the other side, this is a higher level functionality that may be done by an application or maybe operating system, some utility. Now here what is being done is, in order for me to copy a file, I have to first read the content of the file. Somehow I must have that read permission. That is a low level permission. So if I can't read it, I can't copy it. Now if I say I can copy it to the other side, then means I must have the write permission. So these read and write are the basic or the low level functionality. So I will have to read it repeatedly. So I may read one small part of the file and write it. Again, I may read the second part of the file and then write it. That means I am performing many low level operation repeatedly and achieve the high level action of copying a file from one side to the other. Okay. Now, in general, whenever we think about giving the permission or controlling the access, most common approach is to have an entity called as user. So we just think the user with or we give a identity to every user. Okay, and depending upon, so whenever you log into a system, you are given one ID, that is the user ID, and depending upon what type of ID you have, you may have an access to the file or a directory, or you may not have the access to the file or directory. Okay, in the general scheme, what is being done is every object or every file or a folder is associated with the access control list, also called as ACL. So if you take a file for that matter, okay, now this file or a folder is associated with an ACL, that is access control list. This specify the name. Remember I told you every user is given a ID, so that's the meaning. So like how all of you have your register number, same way every user who logs into the system, who uses the system, is given a unique ID. Now when that particular person wants to access a file for that matter, then associated with the file you have an access control list that will give the list of user who can access this particular file or a folder, and what type of action that the user can take. For example, who are all the people who can read the content, who are all the people who can write into the content. So you have a list of username and type of action that the user can perform on that particular file. Okay, so whenever a user makes a request to a file, particular file, the operating system will check the access to the file, and if you have an access, the type of access, for example, if I request that I want to write to a particular file, then the operating system will go and take the ACL, that is the access control list or ACL. It takes it, it checks my name and it checks what permission I have, whether the requested permission is there on the access control list. If the request permission is there, the operating system will say okay, go ahead and access it with the permission that was granted to you. Otherwise it will say this is in violation of you don't have the permission to read this particular content, and it will stop you or it will deny the access to the file or a folder. Now this approach has an advantage. Advantage is you can have any type of permission. Okay, like reading, writing, deleting, listing, you take any type of access. So you specify okay, one particular reading access, who are all the people who can read it. Writing access, who are all the people who can write it. So you make a list of it. So any type of complex set of permission that are required. So for a file you have read and write. Maybe you can have many other things like copying, deleting, renaming, listing, any complex thing, complex access. You write, okay, this is the action and who are all the people who can do that action. So it's a very simple way. However, the problem with that is, if you have anything and everything, if you allow all the type of accesses, then that list itself will become very large. Now, because you really don't know. So just to give an example, so for example, you have a read permission, you have write permission, you have rename permission, you have delete permission, you have append permission, and you may have the copy permission, and how many permissions are there. So this access control list, so many permission and so many users. Remember, for every action you have set up user. So what will be the length of this access control list? That itself will be very much very lengthier thing. So here you have a problem with the access control list itself, because it will vary depending upon the type of file. So some files may not be used by everyone. For example, system files are there, the operating system related files are there, nobody uses them, but data file is there, maybe all of them maybe are using it. In that case, for example, if you want to log into the system, your password has to be authenticated. So password definitely has to be stored somewhere in the file, is it not? So that file everybody has to access it. Otherwise, if you can't read from the password file, then you can't authenticate the users. So here, if you look at this particular thing, even though the information is written in a crypted format, but just to say, if you can access that particular thing, if suppose somebody said, or for example, to get the names who are all the users are there in the system, everybody may have an access to this. In that case, what will happen is the length of this access control list itself will be very lengthy. Okay. The other, the two undesirable consequence of the access control list may be, first of all, constructing such a list is a very tedious process, because if at all we don't know how many people will be there on the system. So for example, next year, next semester, there is going to be opening for first BCA and first BSc PCMC. I don't know how many students will come. So we really don't know. So if you for example, just take a bus, for example, when the bus reaches to when the driver starts the bus, and when he goes to the next stop, he doesn't know how many people are going to get into the bus. So in the same way, when we start the system, we may not be knowing how many of them will be using our system. So we may predict something, but as the number of users increases, the list will also increase. So this is creating a actual list will be very difficult task, because you really don't know how many of them will be there. The other one is remember, when I say that there is a file, I have already talked about this one, but just to give you an analogy. So if you have a file, the file is stored inside the folder or a directory. Now the name of the file, when it is created, who has created, all information are usually stored in the directory. So in the directory, that list will be there, and this directory entries, for every file there will be a directory entry, and this directory entry is a fixed reservation. So for every file, generally that length of that is the number of fields will be fixed. So the entry is fixed. For example, just to give you an analogy, you are creating your record books, and you have this on your record books, you have the first page, you have the table of content. And what is there in the table of content? In the table of content, what you have is a serial number. So you have this serial number, then the name of the program, and maybe the page where it is there, and maybe the remark, something like that. So for every program, this is the same width that you are giving. So it is not like one program only name is there, next one serial number is there. You don't give a variable length. So you know your table of content, it's always fixed table with a number of columns. Okay. So what do I mean to say that when you look at the file directory, the entry in the directories are generally fixed. Now if you allow this access control list, what will happen is that there are many attributes will come into picture, like reading, writing, listing, renaming, copying, I don't know, all sort of things. So what happens is the directory entry, one of them may be very short, the other one is very long, and so on. So you get a varying number of length. So the size is not fixed. So this becomes, this itself makes a complicated space management for the directory itself. How do you maintain a complicated directory wherein some of them will have only 2 fields, the others will have 10 fields, the next one will have 50 fields? It's going to be a difficult task. So to solve this problem, what is done is a condensed version of access list is being used. Okay. How can we condense them? Okay, to condense them, we can reduce it by recognizing 3 classification for a given file. So we can say that you can do only 3 actions in a file. So that's the only way you can say, if you allow any type of access and you make a note of them in the system, that is in the directory, it's going to be very difficult. So we take only 3 fundamental actions, and all the other actions are based on this. So it is like you take only a set of low level actions. All the higher level complex action can be mapped to these low level actions. So this is as simple as that. So at the base you take only 3 levels for 3 classification. Okay, so you say that only these actions can be performed. Also, so this is one way. So what I mean to say is, if you allow all the set of actions like listing, reading, writing, the length will be very large. So what you do is you reduce the number of actions itself. So these are only fundamental action you can take. The next one is, if you, and the next other problem is for reading, if you have the general access control list, for reading, Mahesh can read, Suresh can read, Dinesh can read, and some other Rita can read, Sita can read, Radha can read. So all these users, if you start listing them all here, this is going to be again varying length. Okay, for read permission, you have so many people who can read it. So this is for reading. What about writing? Again, you have one more set for writing. Okay, Ganesh can read it, Suresh can read it. Again, this is going to be one more set. So how do you get rid of it? So first thing is you reduce the number of actions. So only 3 actions. I'm going to show you that thing. Only 3 actions. And the other one is 3 type of users. So only 3 are there. So you have 3 type, and the other one is 3 actions. So what are these 3 classification of users? So 3 classification of users are: the user can be a owner. Owner is a person who created it. So if I create a file, I become the owner. Next one is the group. Group are with whom I want to share my content. So like you belong to BSc PCMCS group, so you are in that group. You belong to NSS group, you belong to Red Cross group, so something, you belong to a group, that is the group. Second option. Third one is the others, the universe, who have nothing to do with your content. So you know very well. Just to give an analogy, so you are the person, you create your maths notes, you write your maths notes, so you are the owner of that maths notes. You may give it to your friend who is there in your classroom, okay, your friends, so they belong to your group because they are all PCMC student or BSc student for that matter. A BCom student, BA students are all outside students according to this analogy. Why they are outside student? They have nothing to do with it, and you don't want to share your maths book with the BA student or BCom student, and maybe some other college student. They are all others. Okay, so 3 options are there: owner, group, and others. 3 options which are available. Okay, so the next one is the actions that are needed for this particular thing. Now what we are doing is, so we have user, so you have user, we assign some bits. So for example, user can he read, okay, can he write, can he execute, I give the permission. Okay, similarly group, I'm giving permission. Can you read? Can you write? Can you execute? Similarly, others can the others read, write, execute. So there will be, these are formed in the form of a bits. So if 000 means no read, no write, and no execute permission. So I'm going to just say read, write, and execute permission. So if I say 100, what is the meaning of that? Read but no write, no execute. 110 means read, write, no execute. 101 means read and execute. Okay, 011 means write and execute. 111 means read, write, and execute. So depending upon the bits value, so there will be 3 bits for user, reserving 3 bits for user, 3 bits for a group, 3 bits for others. So if the bits are set, based on that the actions are performed. Okay, so generally this is what we have. There will be 3 bits: read, write, execute. So read means you have a read control, write means you have a write control, you can write it, or execute means you can execute it. So this will be there for all the 3 type of it. So whenever a particular process request, you just identify, okay, user, are you a owner of this particular file? Okay, if you are a owner of that particular file, okay, so if you are a owner of that particular file, then give the permission. If you are not a owner of the file, do you belong to the group? Okay, so you create a group, and if the group is given a permission, so you give the permission like this. So for example, if you have 111, then this is for the user, this permission is for the user. Next set of 111 3 bits are for the group. Okay, the next set of 111 3 bits, again this need not be always 1, but I am giving you permission like that, all the others. So okay, so what we have here is if when you want to access a file, the file is associated with this permission. So if somebody comes and access to the particular file, you just find whether he is the owner. If it is a owner, then what is the permission that the particular person has? If he is not a owner, does he belongs to the group? If so, what permission is there for the group? If he belongs to a group, remember there can be many groups. Okay, I've already told you it belongs to a particular group, whether that group has the permission. The next one is the outsider, and what type of permission is that? So based on that, you are given a permission. The next way of protection is to provide a password that you are all familiar. Okay, this is generally you do in the lab. What you do is whenever you save it in Microsoft Word or other, you just give a password to your files, so that even though others have an access, without the password they will not be able to read the content or maybe write to the content. So by using the password, what you can do is you can prevent others from accessing it. Okay, now if this password is randomly changed, okay, very often you change the password, and this scheme is very effective, because even if they know the password, if the password is changed, they can't access it. So this is how you access your emails and other things. So this is a great idea. However, this idea itself has some problems. So what are the problems you have? Is suppose for every file you have to have a password, then how many password can you remember? So that is one other problem. See, for every file you are supposed to give a password. So anything and everything you create in a system, you have to give the password. How many password can you remember? Okay, what if you lose the password? The next one is the other one is generally everybody will do that thing. If you tell anybody that for every file you are supposed to create a password, what they will do, they will not create a new password. They will have one universal password for everything, and if that password is cracked, you can access all the files. So immediately it is called a single point failure. So if at one point you hit it, it is all gone, the entire thing will collapse altogether. So this is one other major disadvantage. Okay, the next thing that we have to look at here is I have just talked about the files. But if you look at any system for that matter, a directory will have subdirectories, and inside the subdirectory you may have still more directories and then files. So it is not that a directory will contain files alone. Directory may contain subdirectory. Now, if can you give an access to a subdirectory itself? So rather than giving the permission to individual file, you say that this folder is not accessible to you. So that's really required, because remember, even if you allow the user to list the content, they may figure out what is there inside it. So for example, if I don't give you permission to read the uh, text, but I have given a Word document, there is a Word document or there is a PDF document saying internal question paper. So you know what is it all about. So you are not reading, but you know that there is an internal question paper. So what happens is, even if there is a password protected or anything, it is like you are giving an option for them to do a malicious thing. So even if you allow them to list the file, not to open, to get the list of all the files which are there in the system, that itself can create a problem. Okay. Also, we need to have a different types of protection for the directories. Okay. So for example, this protection could be creation and deletion of files. Remember, where do you create a file? You create a file inside the directory. So if the directory itself has no write permission, then you can create or delete a file. Okay. Again, I have already told you the permission for listing the content. So this also becomes a complicated issue in protection of the file system. So generally we have now come to a conclusion that protecting a file or directory is not a easy issue, but the Unix system, we have a way of protecting to a very great extent. We can secure our content. That's all for today's class. If you are more interested in knowing all the different ways in which you can protect the files, please refer the Galvin's book on operating system concepts. Thank you for your interest.